Assalamu alaikum, Yasmin Mogahed here. So our friends at Hadith of the Day have asked me to talk about a very important and very misunderstood topic, and that is the true meaning of Istikharah, the prayer that we make when we're trying to make a decision. Speaking to people around the world, tons and tons of messages from people over the years, I've recognized a few patterns and a few things that happen when it comes to praying Istikharah. There's a lot of misunderstandings, I feel, about what is the true meaning of Istikharah, what is the true purpose of Istikharah. And due to these misunderstandings, I think we have a very sometimes strange relationship with the Istikharah prayer. So what I'm going to do is I'll start out by talking about some of the misconceptions that I've observed, and then talk about what is the true meaning of Istikharah, what is its purpose, and what is this gift that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has given us to use in our lives to get direction and guidance. So first of all, some of the misconceptions. So one of the misconceptions I've seen very often, and I find this to be very strange, is that sometimes people are nervous or scared of Istikharah. In other words, they're afraid to pray Istikharah. And when I try to understand why this is, it's that people feel that the outcome of Istikharah will be something that will hurt them, something that will upset them, something that won't be good or that will be bad for them. Now, this is proof, really, that there is a deep misunderstanding, because that goes completely against the meaning of Istikharah, the definition of Istikharah, to believe that. So it shows that deep down we don't really understand what Istikharah is. So this idea that I'm afraid that I might pray Istikharah and then I'll be forced into something, or something will happen to me, I'll have to do something that will be bad or that will hurt me. And that again goes against the very definition of Istikharah. The second misconception has to do with why and when we pray Istikharah. I think Istikharah has become very ritualized. It's something that we sort of just go through the motions, and it's that thing we do the night before our wedding. I did my Istikharah, or it's something that we do, but we don't really understand its meaning. And then the third misconception has to do with how we understand Istikharah's response or answer. So a lot of people will say things like, I prayed Istikharah and I got a no answer, or I got a yes answer. We think of Istikharah as though we're going to pray this prayer, and then we're going to get this black and white sort of yes or no answer. Or I got a negative Istikharah, or I got a positive Istikharah. These types of terminology that we use, which shows that we don't really understand, again, what exactly is Istikharah prayer and what is its purpose. Another thing when it comes to understanding the answer to our Istikharah is often we think that we're supposed to see a dream, or we take our dream and then we think that dream is the necessary answer, or the definitive answer to our Istikharah, which again is false, because we aren't prophets. When we dream, it's not wahi, it's not revelation from God. It doesn't mean God is speaking to us and now this is the ultimate truth. Sometimes our dreams are because of what we ate last night, Sometimes our dreams are from shaitan. Sometimes our dreams are from our nafs. Our dreams are not where we get the answer, the definitive answer to Istikharah. Now, that isn't to say that we can't, as regular human beings, have true dreams. Yes, ru'ya, which is a true dream, does exist, and regular people can have it. However, we can't use that as a definitive approach, because we don't know the difference necessarily between what is a true dream and what is from shaitan and what is from the nafs. So using a dream, again, that's another misconception. The other thing is people looking at, I saw a sign, or I got a feeling. And again, the problem with that is that you don't know where your feelings are coming from, right? Again, a feeling can come from shaitan, a feeling can come from my nafs, a feeling can come from an attachment that I have. If I really, really want to marry such and such, then I might have a feeling, no matter what, that I should, regardless. And so the idea that I had a feeling also is not a definitive answer to your istikharah. Same thing with signs. I mean, someone can see a dog cross the road and say, you know what, I saw a dog cross the road and dog begins with D and there's a D in this person's name that sent this proposal. So that was my sign that I should marry this person, right? We can interpret signs in very strange ways, sometimes depending on what we want. So all of these things are not really what istikharah are about. Istikharah is not something that can ever bring about a bad outcome. Istikharah is not something that's just a ritual. And istikharah is not something where you're asking for a dream or a feeling or even a sign. So the question becomes, what is istikharah? And the answer is, if you look at the actual meaning of the dua, you start to understand what it really means. So the Prophet ﷺ said that to pray istikharah, we are to make the intention for this prayer, for istikharah prayer, to pray 2 nafil rak'ahs, and then after that to read this dua. Now the dua begins with the acknowledgement to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala of our own limitations. So we acknowledge first by saying that Allah is able and we're not able. So we're acknowledging His ability and our inability. And we're acknowledging His knowledge, His unlimited knowledge, and our limited knowledge. So we have to understand that as human beings, we don't know the unseen. We don't know what will happen tomorrow, let alone 5, 10, 30, 50 years from now. We are also limited in our abilities, right? So we are going to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, who is all powerful, because we are limited. And then after acknowledging this, we go on to ask Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala about that specific matter. Now that matter could be someone for marriage, it could be a job, it could be, should I move to this city? Should I make this decision? What major should I study in university? Lots of things that we make. I mean, there's so many crossroads in our lives. There's so many decisions that we make. Should I get out of this bad relationship? These are all decisions that we have to make in our lives. And what you're doing here is you are seeking guidance. You are seeking direction from the one who knows all. You're asking for direction from the one who has no limitation in knowledge and no limitation in ability. And so this is the wisest thing to do, because let me give you an example. We are in a car, right? Imagine you're in a car and you yourself are maybe it's a 5-year-old, okay? Getting into the car, into the driver's seat. And now that 5-year-old is not only unable to drive because they don't know how to drive, but now that 5-year-old also has a blindfold on. So imagine a car driven by a 5-year-old with a blindfold. What's going to happen to that car, right? It's actually extremely foolish, right? And the reason for that is that 5-year-old, number one, doesn't know how to drive, and number two, can't see because of the blindfold. That's us in our lives. We are 5-year-olds with blindfolds driving our lives. We don't know what's going to come tomorrow. We don't know what's going to happen years from now. We don't know the outcome. We're so limited. And second, we don't know how to drive. We don't have the ability to direct our lives. And so the wisest thing to do is to go to the one who can see and who can drive, right? That would be like, get a driver, right? A driver who can see, isn't having a blindfold, and a driver who knows how to drive. That is the wisest thing to do, because then you won't crash. And so when you're asking Allah in istikharah, you're basically asking Allah, and Allah is high above any analogy, you're asking Him to take the steering wheel of your life. You're asking Him to direct your life. You're asking Him to direct your path. And you're saying, if this matter is good for me, then 3 things. فَقْدِرْهُ لِي وَيَسِّرْهُ لِي ثُمَّ بَارِكْ لِي فِيهِ. Make it happen, make it easy, and then put blessing in it, put barakah in it, all right? And then you're saying, if it's not good for me in my dunya and my akhirah, right? My this life and the next, فَصْرِفْهُ عَنِّي. So take it away from me. وَصْرِفْنِي عَنْهُ. And take me away from it. وَقْدُرْ لِي الْخَيْرِ حَيْثُ كَانَ ثُمَّ ارْضِنِي بِهِ. And then bring me what is good for me and make me pleased with it. So it's this beautifully comprehensive prayer, which says nothing about dreams. It doesn't ask for a dream. It doesn't even ask for a sign. It simply asks Allah to direct, to take the steering wheel of the situation. So how can we understand the answer to the istikharah? The answer is by what happens. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is directing. You've asked Allah, you've told Allah, Ya Allah, I'm 5 years old, I'm wearing a blindfold, I don't know how to drive, please take the steering wheel. And Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is high above any analogy, but Allah is the one you're asking to drive. And so when Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala then moves things in a certain direction, that is the answer to the istikharah. Sometimes you pray istikharah and things start to work out, or sometimes you pray istikharah and you have barriers, you have obstacle upon obstacle, you find out things that redirect you. That is your answer to your istikharah. It's not about a feeling or a dream or a sign, but it's actually about Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala now unfolding, or rather taking that matter in a specific direction. Now, how does that work with, okay, what about me continuing to try? You can continue to try in a certain direction. That's tying your camel, right? The Prophet ﷺ said, tie your camel and put your trust in Allah. Aqilha wa tawakkal. However, as you are trying and Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is directing towards a certain way, we have to start to understand that we might do our part, but eventually realize that whatever outcome Allah sends is what is best. And that's what I want to end on, is this idea that we're afraid to pray istikharah is really ludicrous, because istikharah by definition is asking Allah to do what is best. It's asking Allah to take away whatever is harmful or hurtful or not best. And so by definition, you're asking Allah to do what is good for you. And so we should never, how could we be afraid to pray istikharah when the very definition of it is for Allah to do what's best and to protect us from what is harmful. أقول قولي هذا واستغفر الله لي ولكم إنه غفور رحيم سبحانك الله وبحمدك أشهد أن لا إله إلا أنت أستغفرك وأتوب إليك والسلام عليكم ورحمة الله وبركاته.